Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm really excited to finally be able to share with you my thoughts on the Batman animated series Batcycle from McFarlane Toys. By now, you're probably already aware that at the tail end of 2023, McFarlane Toys began re-releasing or repackaging the Batman the Animated Series figures that were originally released by DC Direct in their DC Collectibles guise. Now, this was a fantastic opportunity for anyone who missed out on those figures first time around, or those who fancied a refresh, a revisited approach to those action figures, because whilst these figures were essentially re-releases, they actually had brand new paint apps and some slightly different accessories, and of course, we got some brand new builder figures. Now, one of these re-releases that I was really excited to get hold of was the Batcycle, because like a great many others, I missed this first time around. This item was actually quite tricky to get, and I was absolutely delighted when it was announced that this was going to be one of the first vehicles up front and centre in the McFarlane Toys offering. So let's get into this. If we start off by taking a look at the packaging, we can see that it has the standard McFarlane Toys Batman the Animated Series packaging in terms of its style and branding, and I happen to like this a great deal. I think this works really well. I love that Batman image there with the Animated Series logo at the bottom of the packaging. I love that we have so much colour going on in terms of these borders. I think it looks really good. We can even see the Gotham City skyline in the background there as well. I think this looks really presentable. We have a big window display, of course, and we can see the Batcycle up front and centre, and we can even see the trading card that comes with this as well. And we have an image in the far right hand corner of the actual toy in action, I suppose. This looks really good, this looks really displayable, and is it consistent with the other figures in the line so far. If we look at the side panel, we can see, of course, that the design is wrapping all the way around. We see more of the Gotham City skyline looking pretty cool, and we have this image here of the Batcycle itself looking pretty cool. And what I do like about this is that it's actually cutting across the window there as well, which is kind of unusual but actually pretty cool. And then finally, if we look at the reverse of the packaging, of course, we can see that we have an image here taken from the animated series, a still, which is pretty cool. I really like this. I think this works really well. It's quite an animated image in both senses of the word, I suppose. And then on the left-hand side, we actually have an image, a photo image of the vehicle itself and its various points of interest where it lights up, etc. And then, of course, we have a diagram on the right-hand side showing how this kind of connects together and how you replace the batteries, etc. As you would hope, the Batcycle comes in one piece, no assembly required, and it looks pretty cool, pretty authentic to what we see on screen, which is great, and it is quite a streamlined, simple but elegant design, but there isn't an awful lot of details here to really draw on. What we do have is this really nice front wheel. I really like this outer casing. This looks really cool, definitely in keeping with that Art Deco style, which looks great. There's actually a nice bit of colour here, the blue trim and the sort of silver lines going across there. Looks really quite striking. Now, the main body of the vehicle, of course, is a matte black, which is, you know, a little bit dull. There's not too much to talk about here, but we do have the dashboard where we see the Bat logo, which is kind of cool. Sadly, there's not anything else here, which would have been nice. There's no sort of like display or dashboard that we can really draw any details out of, which is a shame. But if we look at the reverse of the vehicle, we can see there is another splash of blue with the sort of the fins at the end there, and there's some blue and white trim on the outer wheel as well, which is kind of cool. So it adds a splash of colour and a little bit more visual interest. Now, as you would hope, the wheels actually are made of a rubber material and they do spin around, of course, so this vehicle can move forwards and backwards. The other thing I should mention about the front wheel is that it is actually articulated, so it can spin from side to side. Now, sadly, this can't be controlled by the steering or the handlebars, which is a shame. I've seen that in other vehicles. That doesn't happen here, but nevertheless, you can pose this in different positions and you can make it move in different ways. The other thing to mention is that on the windscreen we actually have a little bit of cell shading, and you know, this looks pretty good. It gives it a little bit more visual interest, but other than that, it's quite minimalist. Now, this vehicle does have an action feature. Indeed, it has batteries, and if you remove this tag and you press the button underneath, you will see that the vehicle actually lights up in a few key places. First on the dash there, and on the front of the vehicle as well, coming out of the windshield, which is pretty cool. But that's not all, because there's also another one in the tail light as well, which is a bright vivid red, which looks really good actually. But that's not all, because it also comes with a display stand, which actually makes up a sort of street scene. Now, the side that it comes with as the default, as the upside, is a little bit bland. There's not an awful lot of detail here, but if you flip it over, you will see that actually this resembles much more of a road, more of a street scene, and we actually have a bit of a manhole here. So this is my personal preference to have it on display. You'll notice there is this sort of splash effect. Now, on the packaging, there is reference to a smoke effect. Perhaps that's what this is meant to be, but to me this looks more like a splash. I'm not sure what the reference to smoke is. I did think that maybe it generated some smoke at first, but alas no. So I think this is meant to represent smoke or splash or something, but it actually holds the vehicle in place, and it can rock from side to side, allowing the vehicle to be put in slightly different poses to make it look like it's actually in motion, which is pretty cool. So, as you might expect, the Batman figure, of course, is sold separately. He was in the first wave from McFarlane Toys revisitation of this line, but the Batcycle does come with an alternate head for our Batman. This is the helmeted head, and it is exclusive to this set. Now, in terms of the sculpt itself, it looks fine to me, pretty accurate to what we see on screen, and the paint apps are quite complementary to our McFarlane Toys version of Batman, because it has the cell shading on the top of the head and the inner ear there that matches what we see on the shoulder of the cape, which is a nice touch. Less impressive though is the mouth, which just looks a little bit too pale for my liking and a little bit indistinct, and that feels a little bit off. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, getting your Batman on the Batcycle is a bit of a faff. You're going to have to do a lot of posing to get this in a decent position, and it never quite convinces in truth. I was never able to actually get his feet on the pedals whilst getting him to actually sit in the seat, if that makes sense, whilst gripping the handlebars, which is a little bit disappointing. That said, it does look pretty cool, and if you're willing to stretch the legs out beyond the pedals, then actually it looks really, really cool. You can get him sitting in a pretty good position, and he can grip the handlebars convincingly as well. And if you're willing to persevere, I have to say the results are actually quite striking. This looks really cool. This is a nice display piece in and of itself. And a lot of that comes down to that display stand, which has been quite carefully thought out actually. I have to say, this was a really good design from the DC Collectibles line when they first introduced this. This is pretty cool, and it looks very, very striking. So overall, I have to say, yeah, I'm quite pleased with this. I'm really glad I finally got hold of it, and I think, you know, having it light up as well is going to be really fun, especially if you have a darker day and you want to pretend the lights on. It's going to be quite visually kind of cool. And if you have the other vehicles in this line, such as the Batmobile, the Batwing, as I do, then this kind of rounds out the set. Now, if you missed those vehicles first time around, I can't speak to the Batwing just yet, but we do know that the Batmobile is on its way to be re-released by McFarlane Toys. And if you'd like an idea of what to expect from that vehicle, I did cover the original DC Collectibles version on my channel, and I'll put a link to that at the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos soon.